welcome to this poppin' episode of Extra Butter. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
This episode, we catch up with some old favorites at Leverage Inc. Yes, the hitter, the hacker, the thief, and the grifter all reunite to commemorate the loss of one of their own and help another member get through an especially tough time. Tammy, what did you think of Leverage? Did it lose a step or was the game still afoot? I like that. I think that's
Um,
Sherlock Holmes, though. Oh, go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
would I would say it started off really, really good. It definitely gave me the same feel of the original Leverage. I'll be honest, I didn't miss oh my god, what was his name? No. What was the main dude's name?
Nate?
Nate. I didn't miss Nate as much when I first started watching it, and I was just like, oh, okay, like I'm loving it because the dynamic of the characters was great. I do think that it started to go down when Hardison left. When Hardison left, it slowed down a little bit on the dynamics. They brought in his foster sister, and she was cool as, like, a new member, learning about it. She'd heard the stories, but actually being involved, that was definitely cool. But the same dynamics of like Hardison and Elliot and Parker and Sophie wasn't necessarily there as much as when Hardison was there. So I think I missed Hardison more than I actually missed Nate, when the actor left to I think he was in another series or something like that, so he couldn't be there for the full thing and didn't come back at the end. But overall, I mean, it was good. It was on par with the other seasons of Leverage. Like I said, I just missed that one character. I felt it when he was absent.
Um, Gosh, look at us having a moment. I have to agree in certain areas and disagree in others, but no, mostly I agree with you. I did not miss Nate, and that goes to show that the show had always truly been an ensemble. Timothy Hutton got caught up in the Me Too thing, from a case from the 70s or 80s or whatever. But aside from that, he's always been an actor who they said was very hard to work with. And so he, around the time that they were ending the show, in Leverage, there were things starting to come out because it was on cable. It was one of the first shows that really got cable networks knowing, hey, we can actually do our own original content and people would tune in and watch. And so it was on TNT. But there were some rumblings that he wasn't the best co-star, and he always believed he was truly the star of the show and everybody else was just there to hold his water. So um I agree with you. I did not miss him. And that kind of lets you know that, hey, ensembles, there are some shows that are really about everyone else that people don't turn in to watch who you think they're turning in to watch. So um I did miss Aldous Hodges' character. I'm glad he was able to make it for the episodes that he made it to. I know his career is really taking off. And I think he was shooting City on the Hill on Showtime with Kevin Bacon, at the same time as this. So he could not, he's a regular in that show, so he couldn't dedicate everything to this. But I'm glad that he was able to shoot the episodes. And I hope that we see him in the back end because they split it up. So we got the first half, the first 8 episodes. But I hope that he does come back. I will say that, what did you think about the new additions? We did talk about them a little bit. Elise Shannon, I believe is her name, as Brianna, his sister. His I know you said the dynamic was a little bit different, and of course it would be because she's not Hardison. But what did you think about her character and just her in general, and her kind of making it her own and building her own chemistry with having to fill those shoes, if that makes sense?
I mean, she was there. Like, she didn't have an impression on me necessarily, and I hope that she does make more of an impression on me on the back end episodes that are coming. I think they're coming in November is when they're going to be bringing out the last 8 episodes for the first season of the reboot. So I hope that she does make more of an impression on me in the back end. I did like that Parker I think I liked more the you saw the development of Parker as a character, with the dynamics that she's shown with Brianna, because they knew each other before Brianna like showed up in Panama. I believe it was that they where they were when she showed up. And so yeah, she didn't really make an impression on me. Like she was just there because they needed a hacker, and she was related to Hardison, but I'd have preferred Hardison.
Yeah, I would too. And I think, and that just goes to show that I love, that was one of the things I said. I love that the original cast, with the exception of the one who shall not be named anymore, the one that neither one of us missed. Um, I love that the original cast got back together and they did not miss a beat. Like it wasn't like they were trying to recreate or redo anything. It was just like, hey, picking up from where we left off. Like they didn't miss a beat. You got it. And I love how, we got to see how they've matured, how leverage, how the corporation has grown, how they've grown as people and as characters. I love that Parker and Hardison are together. They're married. I love that they still have their wacky, like that is the couple that you would, and I know that we all rooted for them to finally get together, and we were so happy when they did. And their romance had always kind of been on the back burner because we were supposed to just be gaga crazy about Sophie and Nate. But I love that they were still together and that they get each other. Like they understand each other and they don't necessarily try to change each other, but they help each other be better, if that makes sense. So I love them as a couple, and as characters on the show. I also like that. I like the reunion. I like how they wrote Nate's character out of the show. It seemed very natural. They didn't get into too much about how spoiler alert, how he died or anything like that. But I liked the reunion. It seemed very natural. It seemed very leveraged. What did you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I like the fact that they killed off the character rather than saying that he was somewhere and couldn't be there, because I think that would be less believable than what they chose to do, which is kill off his character. I loved how they got back together. I will say that I believed more on Parker and Hardison still being together at this point than Sophie and Nate. Um, like I knew Hardison and Parker were going to be together because of like the dynamics of their relationship, like how well like they were together, even like they played into each other's like weirdness, right? And I think that's what made them such a great couple. I was less I guess I less wanted like Nate and Sophie to be together and that whole thing. Like I never ever was sold on that whole dynamic. More, I was sold more on Hardison and Parker. But I love the dynamic how they came together, and that the fact that they were still connected to each other. Like Hardison, Elliot, and Parker were like still best of friends, still working together, still training together, like all of that through the years when they weren't the team that they used to be.
Yeah, like they had all the, like what they say, they were running the company. They were training other leverage teams throughout the world. They were the bosses now. So, and Parker's like, I miss the Vince, her and her love of Vince. I love that too. And I love the new addition. I loved Elliot's food trucks, how they were multi-purpose.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I agree with you on Brianna. I do hope that, and I get it. Aldous Hodge has some big shoes to fill. The character, has some shoes to fill. So, and I get that they're giving her a chance to make it her own and have her be her own character. So I like that. I do like that, they brought in someone that they kind of already had a relationship with in her. So you don't have to go through, still the trust isn't 100% there because she's not Hardison, as you said, but just learning. So I like seeing that. So I think I like the baby steps into growth, but I do miss Hardison so much. What did you think about the addition of Noah Wiley?
It was fine. I'd more like I think his character played very well in Harry Wilson, or Mr. Wilson as Sophie called him. I think he played very well into the role. I would actually say, because I was not a fan of Nate, that I was more open to accepting Harry Wilson as the new member of the crew more than Brianna, because I knew Hardison was out there somewhere. So yeah, I think he was a good addition.
Yeah. I think so too. And I think what you just said, to kind of go back on that, I think the reason I'm glad they didn't kill off Partisan, because when Aldous Hodge couldn't do the whole thing, I'm glad they didn't just kill him off. That would have broken my heart and everybody else's heart. And I think that part of the reason why they wanted to make, even though you see the bumps along the way, her learning, her being a baby hacker, and they still, they bring it up that she's not necessarily Hardison and that they don't expect her to be, they just need her to be her and do what she can do. I think that kind of helps us, the audience, to go along with that, because he is one of the most popular characters on the show. He was then. Him and Parker, like you said, they were light years more popular than Nate and Sophie. So I agree with that. But I do like Harry Wilson. I do love his character, although it's different than I thought it was going to be, because the way that the blurbs and the summaries had it is that he was the one who brought the team back together because of something. So I was expecting I was expecting his character to be a little bit different. I was expecting him to have more of a role. So I hope in the back half of the season and other seasons to come, because I hope that he gets more to do. I understand this is our introduction of the character, but sometimes I feel like he's just there as a filler without a whole lot to do. Besides, tell them, oh, I used to be a lawyer and I worked for the criminals, so I know how they think, or I know where they hide their money. So I hope that he does more, that we get to see him do more, if that makes sense.
Maybe they'll train him as they go on, because I think one thing is that he needed more training. Like, yeah, he knew the in and outs of how criminals got away with, not paying out what they needed to pay out and everything like that, because that's the type of lawyer that he was. And so that was the role that he played. But he'd have to be trained on other things in order to have more of an involvement. Like, because he really didn't bring anything to the table except for the fact that he knew how criminals worked, because he was a criminal lawyer kind of thing. Or he was a lawyer that protected criminals. So I think he'd have to be trained in order to do more than that.
Yeah. But I did like his character, and I guess in the future, once she's properly healed and grieved her loss, then maybe he will be a love interest for Sophie. Who knows? But
No.
you're like, no, I'm against that
No.
already.
Well, I mean, just, like, no, just, they're just going to be really good friends. No, don't give her a romance. Don't have her romance with Harry. No, y'all two can be two separate entities and have your own people. And we don't know if he's even married, but we know he has a kid. So I'm sure we'll meet that daughter at some point, because he was always talking about her. But I would be in a disagreement on a romance developing between Harry and Sophie.
I think he said he was divorced. Um, I want to say, I think he said he was a single dad or something, or he was divorced or something like that. But I do know he mentioned the kid. Um, do know that he likes to play video games. He's a gamer and all of that. So that was interesting, just the little character details. I love how Brianna and Hardison are so much alike. You would think, I guess, and sometimes where, it's not the family that you're born into, but sometimes it's the family that you choose, or the family that chooses you. And just like she's almost like a baby Hardison. They're different, but she also got caught hacking by the FBI. Except she was doing some social justice or activism hacking. Hardison was just hacking because he was bored. Um, but yeah, I did love that. Um, so what were some of your favorite episodes?
The first two was really, really good. With them going after that guy, with the Rembrandts. I would say the one where it was just the women. I also enjoyed that one with the whole ghost storyline and everything like that. Yeah, those would be like my favorite ones. Yeah, that kept my interest the most.
I agree. I have the first two up there, and I'm going to come back to those in a moment because I thought it kind of made me think of something. I did like the one about, I called it the Halloween one, the Halloween episode, but the one with the ghost stories, that was a really, really good one. And I also like the one where the guy wrote the book about the team.
The
And
last one.
that was the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, where he wrote the book about the team, and that one dude thought he was Nate, and so it was just interesting. Like you wondered, how the hell, who is this, and how does he know all these stories? And so that was cool. And I also love the one with the smart house. That one was kind of scary. The guy who invented that technology, who could kind of that quote unquote predictive technology, that profiling technology, but his house, the smart house.
Yeah.
Um, that one was a good one to me. I really liked it just because you think about everything that's going on in the world today. Like, I'm sure someone out there has something like that. So that's kind of scary, but it was really good. Plus, Elliot got him a little action. He and the DEA agent. I hope to see. Was she DEA?
No, she was a marshal.
She was a marshal. Okay. I hope to see more of her. I did like that dynamic. I love that chemistry between her and Elliot. I thought that was good, and she was really smart. She knew that he wasn't all he was cracked up to be. That there was something more in that story. So I hope we see more of her in the future. But one of the things I noticed that I really enjoyed is I kind of hope that they start to do longer arc episodes where you don't just have a big bad show. But I really did like the dynamic of the first two where they were following one big bad. So maybe break it up into arcs and follow the one big bad, or have to bring them down for a few episodes, maybe 3 or 4. I thought that was a really good continuation of the story. And what about you?
No. I would disagree. I like the fact that they wrap up every story at the end of the episode. I like that big bad for each episode, and I think that the first two episodes with that one with the one guy was just to kind of bring you back into the whole leverage world that had been created years ago, get you invested, because I think they did the same thing with the previous show with the seasons that they did. That's kind of how they introduced it, and then they would go back to that one villain per episode. So I like the whole wrap up of the stories. Yeah, I like the whole wrap up of the stories in one episode. So that was not a problem for me.
I do think they introduced the continuing big bad. I think it's that military contractor, not the one that they took down in South America, but the one that the guy hired, and I think their name begins with an R, but the one that he hired to protect them. And then they ran into their men again when they were in the last episode, and they mentioned them at some point throughout. But when the lady tried to recruit Elliot, she's like, "I know who you are." Do you know who I'm talking about?
RIZ.
Yeah, Riz. So leave it to you. You're great with names. We balance each other so well. Yeah. So I think that kind of like how the insurance company was the big bad, the overarching big bad throughout the original series, and how Nate was determined to take down his former employer, the insurance company, for what they did to his son. I think Riz is going to be our overarching big bad, who we keep coming back to, if that makes sense.
I
Um,
agree.
so I did kind of like that. I do, and like I said, I would be more for having more arcs of the same bad guy for a few arcs, not a season long. I think that would get kind of dull, but maybe 3 to 4 episodes, kind of break it up like that, where you have these different arcs. I'm interested to see how what role RIZ is going to play in the future and how they're going to thwart the leverage team, because you know that is coming. Um, what else did you like about the show? Anything overall that you liked?
I mean, no, like the chemistry is still there between the characters. I love that. They still play their roles very well, but they've advanced beyond just the regular roles that they were supposed to play. I love the dialogue. Like when, oh my gosh, what is it? Oh, when Elliot was texting the marshal, and then they were all looking at him, and he was like, "Okay, you get 10 seconds to make as many jokes as you want, and then it's over. It's done." And so like he just stood there and let them like like shoot them off at him. And he was like, "Okay, it's 10 seconds, 10 seconds." Like I love that, because you think like Elliot would be so badass because he was in the beginning, but like that's his family, and he's kind of like meshed his way into that whole dynamic, as well as like Parker and Hardison. Like I love the fact that you see the evolution of their characters, their personality, and yet they're still who they've always been, and they're better people together than they are apart. So I just love the dynamics of the characters, and that, like you said from the beginning, that just proves that nobody watched this show for Nate. At least I know I didn't watch this show for Nate. He was actually one of my least favorite characters. He was my least favorite character on the show compared to the other characters, even Sophie, who's like my second least. But so I love the dynamics. Like I think that was the best thing of the show, and you would think I was hoping that they wouldn't lose that, and they didn't. And I love the fact that they didn't lose that throughout this whole 8 episodes for the first half of the season.
Yeah. I'm gonna agree. Especially my feelings about Nate, and that was even before all of that other stuff came up. Even with the original Leverage, Nate was not my favorite character. And actually, I know he was supposed to be the quote unquote star, but I drifted more towards the dynamic three, the awesome threesome, as I call them, Parker, Hardison, and Elliot. They were always my three favorite characters, and I love them. Sophie is more tolerable without Nate to me, especially when they started leaning heavily into the Nate and Sophie romance on the original series. So I like her more without Nate. I like this version of Sophie so much more. It doesn't even bother me that she's in charge, or quote unquote they let her take charge, and it was cool how she noticed that and she appreciated that, and she was like, um, she realized that, hey, y'all, they're the ones who were really in charge, that they're just letting her do that, because they've been running the show, they've been running the company, for the last X number of years. So I did love that. And I do, one of the things we talked about Nate, I mean, we talked about Hardison and Parker, but I think we would be very remiss if we did not talk about the epic bromance between Hardison and Elliot. I love it. I love their
Yeah, I
banter.
agree.
Even after all this time and they work together, like I hate that we didn't get a full on Elliot and Hardison argument, but we had those moments where it just kind of hit, where it took you back to those classic moments, especially when she's like, when Brianna first comes and she goes, "Oh, you're the one whose life he was always saving." He was like, "Yeah, what?" And Hardison was like, "Yeah, I saved your life. All those times I saved your life. You think I was just sitting in the van doing nothing?" He said, "I was saving your life. Everybody needs the hacker. Y'all don't ever." And I was just like, okay. And he went on and on. And I really, really loved it. And it kind of lets you know how much Aldous Hodge loves that role, because, like I said, his career is truly, truly taking off. And for him, a lot of people, they don't want to have anything to do with the show, that or their first show or anything like that. But the fact that he made it work to be there is for the few episodes that they have him. And again, I hope we get to see more of him in the back half of this season. I think was just amazing, and I love that they haven't missed a beat. But yeah, So what do you, after all of that, what do you think about the Elliot and Hardison bromance?
I mean, I agree with you on what you said. I think I honestly, like, Hardison was my favorite character, and I think the dynamics between Hardison and Elliot, but also Hardison and Parker, and how they just fit so well, made the show what it was. And so that's why, once again, I say that I can definitely feel his absence when he left. When he left, like, I could definitely feel him not being there, and how the dynamic changed a little bit with him not there, to kind of push Elliot's buttons, even though, like, they love each other and they're like best friends, but they still like go at each other every once in a while, making fun of each other and everything like that. So yeah, like, yeah, that sold the show for me. Like, you start off kind of being like, okay, you're supposed to like this person and that person, but by the end of, of it all, like, those three are the ones that made you come back every single week.
Yeah, definitely. And to think that, they were mostly, and that's why I said I think the show truly became an ensemble, because as their popularity grew, you had to give them more to do. And it shows that they were able to revive it, without their quote unquote main character, and not miss a beat. And the people, and again, big ups and great job to Elise Shannon, for wanting to step in and kind of quote unquote fill those shoes, because like I said, Hardison is a much beloved character for fans of this show and this series. And for her to come in and try to build this character Brianna up on her own and give her own identity, I know that must be very hard, but she's doing a good job. And I hope, and like I said, I hope they give her more to do, and I hope they give her own separate identity, where we will always miss Hardison, but not as much. So I think that would be, I hope that's where they go. And so far they've done a good job. It's not her fault. She's stepping into the shoes of a legend, so to speak. And again, I also hope that they give Noah Wiley more to do. So what is something that you hope to see in a second part of the season, or are you going to watch the last 8 episodes of the season first of
Of
all?
course, it's Leverage. So I definitely will watch it. And the one thing that I'm looking forward to is Hardison coming back. Like, I'm gonna keep it real simple. Like, I just want Hardison to come back. I hope that Aldous Hodge is able to come back in the back 8 episodes and play more of a role, especially towards the end. Like, if he can't come in the beginning, but I hope by the end, the last maybe 3 episodes, that he shows up and he, brings his dynamic back to the show, and the dynamic that he has with certain characters back to the show. That is the one thing. Like, Leverage has always kept me entertained. I love the concept, I love the characters, I love the chemistry. So the one thing that I'm missing is the one thing that I'm hoping for in the back 8 episodes, which is Hardison showing back up and being part of the crew again.
Yeah, I do too, and that doesn't, and that love for me doesn't take away for the Brianna character. Her building her own. I do like the actress. I do like the character. I like I said, I just think she has a hard role to kind of fill, or shoes to fill. So I love that. But I agree. I do want more Aldous Hodge. Not, and that doesn't take anything away from Elise Shannon or the character Brianna. I already said I hope they give Harry more to do. I hope he finds his own identity more. Right now, I feel like they just have him there as a kind of sorry stand-in for Nate. And I guess the way it was first, when they first announced the series reboot, it was like he was supposed to be quote unquote the new Nate. Like I was thinking he was some billionaire who figures out who they are or something like that. So his character is not quite who I expected him to be. I do like his premise. I just want him to have more to do, rather than just being that, I don't know what to even call him right now. And I guess what I'm saying is the show would work with him or without him, especially after those first 2 episodes. So they definitely need to find more for him to do. And I hope that this isn't just a one-off. I know they build it as a limited series, but I would like to see some more seasons of Leverage, because I did not realize it was one of those shows, kind of like Burn Notice, that I hated when it was canceled. Um, just because I love the character so much. And I didn't realize how much I missed it until it came back. So it's like one of those old favorites, like your comfortable sweatshirt or something like that, that you didn't quite realize how much you missed it until it came back. So I hope that we do get some more episodes or more seasons in the future.
I agree with you on that. I would like it to get more than just the one season. I understand it was a little difficult, because all this is becoming like a huge star. Like I feel like he gonna be on Michael B. Jordan level at some point, because this is kind of like the same path that Michael B. Jordan had, with him slowly building up his, oh God, I want to say repertoire, but I feel like that's not the right word. But
Yeah, that'll work.
oh, okay. So building up his repertoire. I just like how it sounds.
Look
But
at you going our fancy. You went SAT and French on us today. Bilingual
look at me.
smarty.
Okay. But, sorry, y'all. But yeah. So I agree with you on that part.
All right. So, how would you rate this first half of the first season of the reboot of Leverage?
I am going to give it a 3.75. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3.75. I will say I would have given it an even higher score if Hardison was there the whole time. And yes, I'm still talking about Hardison because y'all do not understand how much I love his character. But I'm gonna give it a 3.75 popcorns. I really, really enjoyed the season. I cannot wait for the last half. I'm sure we'll probably end up doing an episode for the back end episodes that are coming up in, I think it's November. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, really, really enjoyed it. Great job that they did. Tweak it just a little bit on certain things, but overall, I enjoyed it the way that I enjoyed the first show, which is just Leverage. So, what about you, Eddie?
Yeah, I will give. We're in agreement today, lockstep. I gave it a 3.75 for some of the same reasons. Again, I miss Aldous Hodge. I miss Hardison, and I truly understand why he couldn't be there. His other show on Showtime. I'm just glad that they were able to get him back for the time that he was there. And he's never truly gone because they mention him, but just enough to where he's still part of the team and they still love him. And you have Brianna, who is doing a lot to make the role her own. So I love that. And I love that they didn't kill him off. And just those little things, like you said, giving the Harry character something to do, filling out Brianna, giving her something that truly makes it hers, I think would be great. And I hope they get some other seasons. And so, yeah, it gets that 3.75 popcorns. And I'm looking forward to the second half of the season. I'm kind of glad they broke it up the way that they did. At first, I was a little skeptical about that, but I'm really glad that they broke it up. So it gives us something else to look forward to. And that is my parting shot. Do you have any parting shots, any more kernels of wisdom or goodness you want to drop about Leverage Redemption?
Can't wait for it to come back.
All right. So that does it for this episode of Extra Butter. Please be sure to listen, like, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and or Spotify Podcasts. You can also keep up to date on the latest in entertainment and pop culture news as well as other amazing kernels of pop culture goodness at thepopcornwinedown.com. That's it. That's the plug. Pop, 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 pop. Maybe for our year and a half anniversary, I'll get a sound effect. Christmas, Thanksgiving, just because she's ignoring me. Hello. Okay, fine. Stop rolling your eyes at me like that. Okay. I don't like when you look at me in that tone through the internet. So, one of these days, the point is, hopefully, I'll get that popcorn sound effect. So, thank you. And as always, thank you for tuning in. As always, I'm Eddie. And until next time.
Can I say bye as well?
Yes.
Oh my God. She did this to me, y'all, when we were first recording, and she just completely skipped over me introducing myself. And now she completely skipped over me saying goodbye. So until next time, I'm Tammy.
And I'm Eddie. That's the shade for my sound effect.
I'm sure. Like I felt that. I felt that. Like that came through the internet towards me. But until next time, y'all. Bye.
Peace.